People of faith, Kumi. People of faith, Kumi now. Rise up and take action. Respond to the cry of millions seeking your attention. Kumi now reflects the urgency for peace and security, based on justice, nonviolent resistance, and inclusivity. With focus on international law and UN resolutions, we need to exert pressure on powers for just solutions. No peace or security can prevail in the Middle East without addressing the Palestinian rights, to say the least.
My name is Seth Malone. I am the MC for today's session on Kumi Now. Previously, I worked with Mennonite Central Committee in Palestine and Israel about 2 years ago, and I worked there for 2 years. I had the opportunity of serving as their peace program coordinator. And in that role, I worked very closely with Sabeel and even helped in the initial drafting of the Kumi initiative. So thank you all for joining us for the 8th Kumi Now online gathering. Before we begin, we have a few housekeeping points to cover so that the session can run smoothly. First, this session is being broadcast live on Facebook. If you do not wish to appear, please turn off your video feed. We'd also love it if you could quickly share the Facebook post on Facebook so that others may join. We will be muting everyone during the session except those speaking. If you wish to speak, please use the raise hand option under participants or indicate in the chat to Kumi team. Individuals will not be able to unmute themselves. If you wish to ask a question of the speakers, please type it into the chat box. When it comes to questions at the end of the session, we will use questions shared in the chat or from the questions received earlier by email. Number 4, if you have any technical issues, please use the chat to message the Kumi team privately, and we will try to help you with them. We hope that you'll find this session interesting and informative. So, as I said before, I'd like to welcome everyone to this online gathering. For 7 weeks, we have been holding these gatherings, bringing activists around the world together and with the organizations on the ground in Palestine and Israel. This week, we partner with Pilgrims of Ibillin and address the issue of education funding inequalities in Palestine and Israel. But first, before we get to the Archbishop Elias Chacour, I'd like to invite Omar to give us an update on recent events on the ground.
Thank you, Seth. And good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending where you are. Thank you for joining us. I have prepared a PowerPoint presentation. So please bear with me for a second until I share my screen. First of all, if you are already receiving the Sabeel wave of prayer, which updates people and our friends on what's happening on the ground and helping you, and we write for you prayers every week. If you haven't registered for the wave of prayer, please do. So I'll start with the presentation of things that are not already mentioned in the wave of prayer. There was a very touching and unfortunate event this week. Jihad, on your left, his mother passed away. So this is Jihad and his mother. She passed away because of the coronavirus, and this was the first case that really touched the whole country, because Jihad spent the night, climbed to the hospital to the on the third level window and waited there. He didn't want to leave his mother alone as she passed away. The news of Jihad and his mother, the unfortunate news became viral in the country, and people really understood how dangerous the COVID-19 is and how it really affects us. In Palestine, there was, since the beginning of the virus outbreak, there has been over 9,200 cases, 65 deaths, unfortunately. In Israel, there has been much more cases, 52,600 cases, with over 422 deaths. The numbers, unfortunately, continue to rise to an average of 2,500 in all of the Holy Land, in Palestine and Israel. I mean, this week also, today and 2 days ago, Israel started to demolish some of the Palestinian centers that deal with COVID-19, that do testing or provide support. Israel claims that they are built illegally in Area C. They are built at the entrance of the cities, of the Palestinian cities. This is the footage from today from Hebron. At the entrance of Hebron, the whole facility was destroyed, and all of the equipment, the testing equipment, has been confiscated. And 2 days ago in Jenin, they destroyed the whole facilities. Another thing that happened, I mean, yesterday or the day before, in the small village of Chacour, it's the same village that the Prophet Amos comes from. There was this baptismal font that was found from the Byzantine times, over 14 centuries ago. And in the middle of the night, the Israeli occupation came and just stole it. I mean, they stole it and they said, this belongs to us. Although they claim that it has been taken from an archaeological site close to Bethlehem, still in the West Bank, which also is on the of the village. The village has taken this to try to protect it and maintain it, in the hopes that a museum would start for all of that. To show Palestinian history. Another, I don't know if it's funny or sad piece of news. In Jerusalem, in the Old City, a Palestinian boy was flying a kite, and on his kite, it's a handmade kite, he drew the Palestinian flag. The Israeli army spotted the paper kite flying over Jerusalem and started immediately an investigation. They gathered all of the kids in the Old City and they said, do you know anything of the kite? And I think they started to follow the rope, and they arrested the young kid, a teenager from Jerusalem, from the Old City, who was flying the kite. Shows how stupid the occupation is, and that's how it's very difficult for Palestinian kids to be kids. There's also a very sad incident that happened yesterday. Israel uprooted 220 trees in a small village called Deristia. Deristia is between Nablus and Salfit. This is a small village that relies heavily on agriculture, and they've been facing numerous harassments by the Israeli authorities. To begin with, I mean, it is the uprooting of olive trees. They would, I mean, flood their agricultural land with wastewater and sewage water, and now the village has orders that they're going to be built over 120 housing units for a new settlement. Already there's 6 settlements that surround the village, and Israel claims that this village is in a strategic area, although it is in the middle of the West Bank, and they want to evict everybody from the village. In Gaza, there is very sad news since the beginning of the year. In the last 2 days, only 4 Palestinians, young men, have committed suicide. Since the beginning of the year, over 30 cases of suicide deaths happened in Gaza among young people. And since the beginning of the year, this is over 600 attempts to commit suicide. these are scary statistics. Suicide in Gaza and our Palestinian society is a highly taboo issue. It is not welcomed. People usually it's a new phenomena, and it's growing very fast. Some people feel that it is a way of the young people protesting, either against, definitely against the blockade of Gaza, or against, Palestinian factions. But there is there's a serious situation of depression. Home demolitions. Since the beginning of the year and June especially, there has been a very high rise in home demolitions. Last month, Beit Salem has issued recently a report. Last month only, in the month of June, 151 Palestinians, including 84 minors, became homeless, especially at this time of the pandemic, became homeless from home demolitions. 33 Palestinian homes were in June alone, we're talking, were demolished by the families themselves, to try to, in a way to avoid paying the penalties. The number is, in June alone in East Jerusalem, counts to, is higher than the last 5 years of home demolitions in East Jerusalem, especially at this time of the pandemic, this time of crisis, financial crisis. This is extremely dangerous. They are, it's skyrocketing, the home demolitions, especially in East Jerusalem, but all over the West Bank. There was a video that that shows a family who has just been a family that has just been that is going through just before the home demolition from Jerusalem, and I thought it is worth sharing with you, just to understand how a family feels. The family has been, the mother in the house, she was, supposedly she was doing a call for help, trying to get her family when the army broke into the house, and they gave her the demolition orders. She collapsed, and her cry for help turned into try to document and save her memories of the house for the last minute. Please hold the family and all of the families who are being affected by this brutal occupation in your prayers.
Thank you, Omar, for that update. I would like to read a short introduction to our speaker today, and then afterwards I might give a little bit more background to the school that he founded. But he is a 3-time Nobel Peace Prize nominee. Elias Chacour was born to a Palestinian Christian family in the village of Biram in Upper Galilee in 1939. Along with his whole village, he experienced the tragedy of eviction by the Israeli authorities in 1948 and became a refugee in his own land. In 1965, Bishop Chacour was ordained and appointed as priest of St. George Melkite Catholic Church in Ibillin. He remained there until 2006, when he was elevated to become Archbishop and moved to Haifa. He retired in 2014 and once again lives in Ibillin. Ibillin is a small Arab village in the Galilee region near Nazareth, where Christians and Muslims have lived together peacefully for hundreds of years. He enjoys having time to read, write, pray, and continue meeting pilgrims groups to share his story of building peace on desktops. Bishop Chacour realized early on that his work in Ibillin would require more than routine priestly duties. His vision was and is that through education, children, youth, and young adults of different faith traditions will learn to live and work together in peace. That vision is a reality in the schools of Mar Elias education institutions, MEEI. As Father Chacour's dreams became reality, schools were established in Ibillin over 30 years ago. The cluster of schools now serve 2,750 students from preschool throughout high school.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be lined up with you and to speak with you all without seeing you. I wish you could come and be with us so we could have a personal exchange about experience, about faith and perseverance. So it's a pleasure to be contributing a little bit with my witness for Sabil and for the work we are doing in Galilee with Palestinian Arabs inside Israel. Indeed, with the Sabil, I had a very long experience. I remember when we started in Jerusalem, I was honored and pleased to be the co-chair of Sabil with Naim Atiq. I knew that he was the boss. I knew that he deserved to be the boss. And I was only wanting to be a servant in all this enterprise. So with the time going on, I got very, very busy with building the school, trying to deal with the college. And they choose another co-chairman. So I was degraded, third place, last place. Wherever I was happy because I was working with Naim, a man of God. With the time going, I often attended their annual conference. And instead of teaching people anything, I was learning much more than what I taught. Your presence in Jerusalem and elsewhere in Palestine was very meaningful for us. It was encouraging our hope to continue and our smile to shine. And this is what I am, for example, trying to do all the time with my 3,500 students in Mar Elias Education Institution. The only thing I ask them, when you see me with you or around you, give me a smile of hope. And this smile of hope is what we need, we Palestinians, because everything is made for us to lose hope, to lose the smile. But the more we are pressured, the more we have a strong smile of hope. And that's why I agreed this morning to speak with you. Maybe with what I will say, I will find an encouragement or another sign encouraging my smile of hope.
Could you please tell us more about your journey with the school, how it started and where we are now?
Well, the school is a long story of love. I started in 1980. All I wanted in the beginning was to have a small, excellent high school for the children of Ibillin. I never thought of anything else. I had a vision to have a school where I can welcome everybody. Not a normal, usual school, but a school open to welcome everyone who was born baby, Christian, Muslim, Druze, and even Jews. And what was special about the school? In my dream, that is still a dream. but I hope it will be once implemented, is to save few places for 2 or 3 children from each Palestinian refugee camp in Gaza and in the West Bank. This is up till now impossible because of the political factor. They cannot come here, or we are not allowed to have them. It's very complicated. So I focus myself on Galilee. And I have only the vision. The Lord has the plan for me. And we started with 80 children aged 13, 14 years old, and with 4 teachers, 1 lady and 3 gentlemen. Now we have over 200 faculty members. Most of them, maybe 80%, are young ladies, and the rest are men. This is the big evolution, the great change in our society towards women promotion. And we are proud to see how faithful and dedicated are women in their work in the school. Our school is considered to be among the best in Israel. And that is concluded from the governmental exams, the Bagrut, that our children have to go in, like all other schools in Israel. And very often, we are first in Israel, for example, in the Hebrew language. 3 years ago, we were first in mathematics, in chemistry, and in biology. We have students who are excellent, who when they finish, they join universities, and now they are key persons in the society. For the last one was a person who just returned back from Washington, where he was specializing in heart surgery for 2 years. And he come back now, he's coming back. There are another person in Israel like him and he, 2 only persons who can make these very special operations. We have other examples. We have even religious leaders, Muslim religious leaders. We have some students who became pastors. And all of them try to be a key person in their society. The greatest consolation I have is when I go anywhere to buy or to do or to meet, I find alumni from Mar Elias Education Institution. A few years ago, I had to go to have a surgery in my neck. After the operation, when I was in the operation arena, I woke up and I was surrounded by 11 doctors. 9 of them were old students from Mar Elias. Mar Elias is no more one man's dream. It is my vision, but it is many people's work on all levels. It's a community interest. Yeah. I wish you could come and see. You could come and share. You could come and be mingled with our students and try to feel the affiliation they have to the school. One point that was very well noticed by the alumni, whenever I see them, they say, Abuna, we miss the 10 minutes talk of the morning. I used to gather all the students in front of the school and address them for 10 minutes. That was the morning talk. And they still remember, they still wish they could have that again. One thing we were not able to succeed in so far is to organize the alumni, to have an alumni association. We were not able to do that so far. I don't know why, but we have to examine our methods and our ways of doing. Yeah.
Bishop Elias Chacour, we know from stories, either we heard from you or from many of our friends, that the path to receiving an accreditation was a very difficult path. You faced many challenges and you knocked on many doors. Could you please describe the challenges of getting an accreditation?
I am used to work in the middle of immense problems. If there's no problem, problems were created for us. Maybe because I was not a Jew. It's sad to say it, but it's true. For example, when I built a school, the first building, I remember when I built the school, I applied for a building permit and they refused. They refused to give me a building permit. I had to decide whether to continue or to stop. I said, no, I have the right to build a school for our kids. So what I did, I built without building permit. And case surah surah. I had much trouble with the authorities. They summoned me to court. That's okay. I went so often to court. I was up till now 37 times in court, always for building permits. But the problem was very, very problematic, very difficult when I wanted to start the university. We were associated with the University of Indianapolis. We are considered a foreign branch of the University of Indianapolis. We are allowed to give BSc, master degrees on the name of the University of Indianapolis. Israel did not want that. They said either you close or you translate your syllabus in Hebrew. That's no problem for us. We did it. And we started a long period of corresponding with the Higher Education Committee. I think in 1 year we received 64 letters from them, always letters of protesting, of putting obstacles. And we responded with alleviating, with simplifying the obstacles, till at the end they accredited us. We were accredited as a branch college in Israel, not of the University of Indianapolis, but independent. We needed the accreditation by the government of Israel to be full accredited to function. And I remember the last meeting of the University of President Omar on the program was discussing the Mar Elias University project. At the end, they accepted us. They gave us the state accreditation, but provided, sorry, with one small notice: this academic institution will never enjoy any subsidy from the state of Israel. That's equal. You are allowed to make a child, but you are not allowed to let him breathe. So better not to make a child. So I decided to stop all that business. I spent almost 8 million shekel on correspondence, on schedule, on preparing for the university. We handed it to Nazareth, to the municipality of Nazareth. And there the political ambitions intervened. Each one wanted to have his own people, his own influence. And in a few years, it closed up. Now we remain with the high school, with the middle school, elementary school, and kindergartens.
There are, it's from reports and human rights organizations, there's plenty of, there's so many classrooms and missing in schools, in the Arab society inside Israel. There isn't enough universities. Why would the government oppose the starting of a school?
I think you better ask them, not ask me. From my side, there's no reason. I don't want to answer that question. You better ask the State of Israel why they don't tolerate any Arab-speaking high school, university in Israel. I think that this would have been extremely important. This would have been a center of reconciliation. But do they want reconciliation? I don't know. You have to ask them.
I don't know if I ask them, they would reply. But I want to ask you another question. I mean, I know that there were many people who were the Good Samaritans who were helping your ministry, helping your work. I think the bakers it started with a Bible study. And could you mention your experience?
Oh, surely. I would never forget that. Pilgrims of Ibillin. We have 13 chapters in America, one in each state, called Pilgrims of Ibillin. These are pilgrims who came from the state to visit us and who promoted the story of the school. And their task is to tell the story and to raise funds. I must say, in the 12 past years, if we did any development project, it was because of the Pilgrims of Ibillin. Many Americans, many Americans were so keen to help. And I feel grateful to all of them. I am very sorry to say that they do not represent the American foreign policy. For me, the Pilgrims of Ibillin and those who are with Sabil represent the beautiful face of America. And how can we be not appreciating this very beautiful face that we bless, we pray for, and wish the best for him?
We have a question also about Kufr Bir'am. Was there a school before 1948, before Nakba in Kufr Bir'am? And where
the proof that there was a school. I started studying in Bir'am. We had one classroom in the church, and the other classrooms were outside in the parish house. We had a school, and we went up to 4th grade, which was very, very good. At 4th grade, you could read English, you could read Arabic, you do many things. And then the calamity came when we were kicked out from our village for no reason but for welcoming the Jewish soldiers as survivors of a certain satanic plan in Germany. We opened our homes. We prepared our meals for the soldiers, and they all accepted that gladly. But then their orders were, leave the village for 10 days. After that, you will come back. And we have a written promise by the army that we will come back after 1 week. And I remember we went on living under the trees in the neighborhood of the village. For us children, it was like paradise to spend the day climbing the trees, eating figs, almonds, grapes, and catching birds. It was a paradise for the first week. But after 1 week, it became boring. We wanted to come back home. We started pressuring our heads of families. Please go and see the army. You have their promise. You will return back home. They obeyed. They went back to see the army. Among them was my father. They went, but they never, ever came back. We did not know what happened to them. Did they escape? Did they escape to Lebanon? Were they killed? Were they imprisoned? We had no idea whatsoever. Up till 3 months later, my mother decided we moved to the next village where there was still inhabitants. And we found an empty room, 30 square meters. We decided to stay there. We were convinced that peace will come. We were convinced that it's impossible to live without peace, and peace is surely coming. So we can tolerate sleeping 13 persons in one room. And each evening, I remember my mother, she would gather us children around her, and she would pray for the government so that God changes their heart of stone into heart of flesh. She would pray for her bishop. She would pray for her children. And she never forgot to pray for the return of her husband. 3 months later, while we were praying about 6 o'clock in the evening, someone pushed the door. Our door could be closed. It could not be locked. It was so primitive. Pushed the door. It was Father. We thought it was his ghost. We ran to him. We surrounded with our arms. We said, Father, you never go back now. You never go away. You stay with us. And he kept assuring us, I'm coming to stay. He told us what happened. He said, as soon as we went down the village, the army was ready. They loaded us into military trucks like cattle and drove us from northern Galilee to the neighborhood of the city of Nablus, where the borders were set temporarily. And they told us, Father said, this land does no more belong to you. This is atrocious. Who has the right to say to someone, go away from your home? This home does not belong anymore to you. It's my home. This land does no more belong to you, said the army. You cross the borders, go wherever you want. If you try to come back, before you trespass, you will be killed. And they made their long way of suffering, crossed the Jordan River, and they did not need any boat to cross the Jordan River. It is the river about which I know there was much more ink spilled to describe it than there is water in it. They crossed the Jordan River and went out through Pella on Mount Moab to the village of Amman, which was a poor, dirty, and very deprived village. Now Amman is one of the most beautiful capitals of the Middle East. But then it was non-viable. So they went northwise towards the very hospitable city of Damascus. And there they discovered the dimensions of their tragedy. They saw the hundreds of thousands of Palestinian refugees surrounding there in Damascus. They did not stay there. They went westwise towards Beirut, and they became the Palestinian Arab refugees in Lebanon. My father knew very well the way back to Palestine, because we have till now lands inside Lebanon, but we can't use it surely. So he took a few friends and they infiltrated back in the borders to Galilee. That's how we found my father back. This is a quick story. The details are always full of pain, of disillusions, of suffering.
As any indigenous people, I mean, we have our stories and we have our narratives. This is another question that we have received. If Israel controls the schools and promotes a certain narrative, how can we maintain our narrative when our venues to speak these narratives are limited?
Well, our narratives are limited and we have to use them. Up till now, we did not use the narratives that we at our disposal in the whole world. We have to tell our story, to tell it back and again, to tell it again and again without being discouraged. And we have to tell our story without insulting anybody else, without accusing anybody else. This is our story. This is what happened to us. And we are sorry that it happened on the hands of our brothers and sisters who, few years before that, they were themselves the victims of concentration camps.
We have another question. How did Israel's decision to recognize the state as a Jewish state affect the non-Jewish citizens of Israel?
Well, this is a simple question but difficult answer. Well, the first thing, up till 2 years ago, I used to say, I am a citizen of Israel, but I am a second-class citizen. But since 2 years on, I even do not feel I am a second-class citizen. I am simply no citizen whatsoever. I'm a tolerated individual who lives in his home and has to consider himself as a foreigner at home. This is how it affects us. And for the schools, it affects every child, because we used to receive 75% of the subsidies that the government allows each child in Israel. We struggled for that, and I think my predecessor, Bishop, went to meet the government, and he was able to conclude with them they would give us 75% of what they give to the children. We were happy with that. We could manage. We could not develop ourselves. But 5 years ago, they started cutting on that 75%, 3%, 10%, 9%, till 5 years ago they decided to cut 19% from the remaining of the 75%. What remains exactly was 23% what the Jewish students get from the government. We're unable to run. We decided the first time in our history to go into strike. And 33,000 children in the Christian schools went on strike on the 1st of September. And we're on strike for 30 days. Nobody even bothered to know what's wrong. Then we decided to upgrade the protest. We took all our teachers, around 5,000 teachers, and we decided a sit-in strike in front of the Ministry of Education. We were there. They did not even want to come and see us. But we had a special opportunity. The chairman of the parents' committees of all the Jewish schools came to join us. Then they became alerted it's spreading. They decided to meet with us, with the committee, which is a committee of 13 persons. The Ministry of Education did not want to give us any concession. We have to return back to school without any concession. But the Jewish representative of the Jewish schools stood up and said to the minister, look, you are not dealing fairly with these people. I tell you, unless you give them what they want, tomorrow all the schools in Israel will go into strike indefinitely. The minister was really shaking, if that's so serious. So they accepted to talk with us. We required 200 million shekel to pay the deficit of all the Christian schools. At the end, they concluded 50 million for the start. It took them a year to give us these 50 million for the schools. We at Mar Elias, our share was 4 million shekel. This was okay to restart the school.
We have another question. When people speak about certain discrimination inside Israel, usually advocates for Israel or for Zionism, they claim that Israel has, in its high court, appointed Arab judges. In the Knesset, there are Arabs citizens. There are also certain ministers who are Arabs. They serve in different areas in the country. So why is there discrimination when there is Arab representation in all of these different decision-making bodies?
You know that in Iran, there is a Jewish representative of the Iran Jewish Committee in the Parliament of Iran. And in Lebanon, there are two Jews representing the Jewish community in Lebanon. Do you conclude that in Iran everything is okay? I better not go into that very, very touchy point, but I think democracy does not mean to choose a person who represents the interest of the major parties among the Arabs, so that to keep them mouth shut. Yeah. It does not mean equality.
Thank you. A final question is, how do you, what can people from the international community do to help the schools and to help the people like yourself and many others who are trying to fight the system or create or make a difference?
I think that all those personal friends in America, and they are in the hundreds, all those in Europe, in Africa, and Australia, the major thing they did to help me was to encourage me to continue what I am doing, to love peace and to pursue justice. And that's why I was encouraged never to give up. I know we asked them to pray for us, but to pray has to be kind of substantiated. Prayer has to be made through assistance. And prayer and assistance are the major factors that would help us to persevere.
Thank you very much, Bishop. Is there a final word that you would like to say before we close the meeting?
Yes. I think all the time we are together. We are stronger than the storm. All the time you continue to believe in us. You will encourage us to be up to your expectations. And we do not want you to become Palestinians. Don't ask us to become Americans, French or English. We love Galilee. We love our Palestine. We better die in Palestine than to live anywhere else. So help us, please, to love our country as you love yours, and God will love you.
Thank you very much for the powerful words, Bishop.
I would also like to read more about the school itself before our speaker joins. Many international friends don't realize that Israel runs separate and unequal school systems for Jewish Israelis and for its Palestinian citizens. All Israeli schools, Jewish or Arab, receive federal tax support, but the government, i.e. public schools for Israel's Christians, Muslims, and Druze, receive a much lower subsidy than Jewish schools and are generally of inferior quality. As such, private schools, some predating the formation of the State of Israel by decades, offer the best education available to Arab students in Israel. Mar Elias is among the best and largest of these schools. The Mar Elias School in Ibillin today include 2,700 students, ages 3 through 18, from 45 different villages in the Galilee and several communities near Jerusalem and in the Negev. 2/3 of the students are Muslim, most of the rest are Christian, and a small number are Druze. Mar Elias teachers include Christians, Muslims, Jews, and Druze. More than 50% of the students are girls. This school's diversity and commitment to equal treatment for all make it stand out even among other religious schools for Palestinians within Israel. Although Christian schools like Mar Elias are private, they are still required to follow the curriculum set by the Israel's Ministry of Education. Graduating seniors need to achieve high grades on the required Israeli matriculation exams to qualify for an Israeli high school diploma. Almost 90% of Mar Elias graduates achieve this goal, a far higher percentage than the general population in either Jewish or Arab government public schools. Almost all Mar Elias high school graduates also go on to study in universities in Israel and all over the world. They not only excel academically, but Mar Elias graduates stand out as leaders and innovators in their professions and communities. A challenging issue for the Mar Elias educational institutions is that Israel only supports 29% of the funding of the private religious schools run by Christians or Muslims. Government subsidies to non-Jewish religious schools have been reduced drastically over the last decade, to the point that many Christian schools are struggling to survive, even though they charge tuition. In September 2015, all 47 of Israel's Christian schools united in a month-long strike, delaying the start of the school year, to call to attention their dire financial situation and to pressure Israel's government to give equal treatment to all students within Israel. The strike ended with only modest success, with promise of a one-time catch-up payment from the government that has yet to be fulfilled. Mar Elias leaders admit that the school continues to be able to exist as a stellar educational institution because of international friends who pray for it, visit it, and financially contribute to the school. Pilgrims of Ibillin is the largest of these international supporters of Mar Elias, providing scholarship funds, building maintenance and renovation funds, and equipment and resources to keep technology and curricula up to date. Scholarship funds are especially crucial because 2/3 of Mar Elias students can't afford to pay the required tuition, even though it is less than $500 a year for high school and $1,000 a year for grades 1 through 8. Pilgrims of Ibillin also helps educate American friends about the situation of Palestinians in Ibillin, the Galilee, and those living in the West Bank by leading annual Living Stone pilgrimages to meet peacemakers like Mar Elias Chacour and other amazing leaders in Palestine and Israel. I think it's also worth noting the strike that the Mar Elias school did along with other schools in the region. In September of 2015, during the Christian school strike, most families of Mar Elias students strongly supported their school, and teachers, students, and family members attended rallies and prayer events in both Galilee and Jerusalem. However, some students' families were simply angry that their students had to miss a month of classes, and they removed their students from Mar Elias to enroll them instead in local government schools. The strike had some surprising consequences, even though it did not achieve the full financial backing and recognition that schools like Mar Elias had hoped for. One result was that teachers, students, and their families became much more aware of the value of a Mar Elias education in academics and in teaching moral values. They learned to articulate what makes their school unique and become strong proponents of religious education in general, and Mar Elias in particular. Teachers committed to teaching 6 days a week for the rest of the school year in order to help students make up the lost time, even though it meant extra work for no more pay. Another unexpected consequence of the strike was that students and teachers informally started study groups using social networks. They carried on spirited online discussions of what was happening and why. English students read essays provided by teachers and discussed them through chat rooms. And a small group of enterprising computer programming students used the strike month to dream up of an entry for an international hackathon, a programming competition. Their entry ended up taking the first prize in all Israel and qualified them to compete at an international level among the 37 national hackathon winners. The Mar Elias group took second place in the world that year. A final unexpected consequence of the strike was that some families who had withdrawn their students from Mar Elias because of the strike returned, saying that even though their students didn't miss the strike time, the education they got elsewhere was not as good. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. Unfortunately, our guest speaker is he's a busy man, and we're trying to get him on the line. So let me bypass the usual run of things and get to with the Kumi Action. This is something that you can do in your community with limited resources, with just a short amount of time. And the idea is that if we all globally do this action at the same time, we can create big change with just a few resources and not much time. So it's great for us to learn all about education funding and its effects on Palestinians, but at Kumi Now, we believe that knowledge is just the beginning. The reason that Kumi Now exists is to empower people to act on their knowledge. With this in mind, we've created a single advocacy action that everyone around the world can participate in. It will be posted in the chat and is also available on the website. This week, we'd like you to do more than just one. So first, we would like you to take a photo of your school or a shelf of books in your school library. Use a marker or Photoshop to black out 71% of the school's books and share it with the text, "We'd miss this much of our education if our school was a Palestinian school in Israel." Post it in your school library and halls, etc. And hopefully, through this, you can educate your own community about the lack of educational funding for Palestinian citizens of Israel. Another action that you can do is to send a book about justice. Any book is good, but you would highly encourage you to use Blood Brothers, which is the book very famously wrote by Bishop Chacour. Take that book and send it to the Ministry of Education and suggest in a note in the cover, since you find it difficult to do the right thing and fund Palestinian schools properly, I thought you should read this book. You can then add it to a school library and somewhere else in Israel. It is needed. You can also email them the cover of the book, and we can put the Ministry of Education's contact info in the chat. The third action that we can do is take your school library photos and photos of your books and inscriptions and post them to social media along with your messages. Include a link to this page of the Kumi Now website, so Pilgrims of Ibillin, along with the hashtags, hashtag education funding, hashtag Kumi Now, and hashtag Kumi40. Those are the main advocacy actions that we'd encourage you guys to do today. Our guest still is not with us. Apologies for that. But yes, I highly recommend that you guys read Blood Brothers. In the meantime, can someone, if you have had a personal experience with Elias Chacour or have heard him speak, would you please type that into the chat box and let everyone read how much Elias Chacour, through his own ministry and life, has impacted your understanding of the region and your understanding of this issue in particular. If you've heard from him at a speaking event. I know that for me personally, I was very interested in the Palestine and Israel as a young college student. I was about to go study abroad with the Middle East Studies program, and I knew very little. I thought I knew a lot. We all thought we knew a lot. If you've ever traveled to the Holy Land, you always think you know. And actually, Elias Chacour was giving a talk at a Presbyterian church somewhere in Pennsylvania. I heard that talk, and it made me realize the complexity of what the region is. And it was a good introduction for me personally going into it to understand the challenges that people face in the region, understanding what Palestinian citizens of Israel explicitly go through. And it was a good introduction for my time there, where I learned a lot more than I thought I could possibly learn. And it was a building block to me eventually serving with Mennonite Central Committee a few years later on. So Benneth writes, we met and heard Elias Chacour in 2012. The thing that stuck with us the most was his warning to not hate. He said, if you hate Jews, I don't want your help. I heard the same thing from Elias Chacour, and it was very moving to see his ability to navigate nuance and to teach us on the outside not to draw these strict lines and not to make generalizations and not to believe such hard beliefs about other people. He really brought us into an understanding of how to love others, even if you're being mistreated by others. Roger Gordon writes, in 2003, we were inspired to hear from Bishop Chacour at the Greenbelt Festival. Schools in UK are on holiday and are closed. Kathleen Zimak writes, I met Archbishop Chacour during a Seville witness tour in 2018, a memorable event. Thank you for sharing. Does anyone else have any other stories? Okay. One more comment. We were blessed to read Blood Brothers over 20 years ago, and when we first began our personal drive for Palestinian justice and peace. At that time, we also distributed many of those books, which we count to be one of the absolute best used for those who wish to read and digest the truth about Israel-Palestine. I agree. I actually gave that book to my father. I had Elias Chacour sign that book, and I gave it to my father. And he came back later, and he said, I learned so much about what was happening. I didn't really understand that there were people there before Israel showed up. And so I thought it was a really good introduction. Last year in a small group gathering, this is Mary Mobley, Archbishop Chacour said how he loves the kindness and generous support of Americans, but is very saddened by the American government. I think that's very true. I've heard it said a lot of times that people in Palestine specifically, there's so much generosity with the American people, but somehow our government doesn't match that same sort of kindness that's in the American heart. And some of the policies that multiple governments, especially this one, have implemented over the last several years have really hurt peace in the region or the potential for peace. Curtis Marwood writes, Elias Chacour was one of our guides for a group visiting from Canada in 2013. He shared the biblical story of Jesus' teaching about the lilies of the field in a rural setting in Galilee. I was very much impressed by his teaching. Paul Hansen wrote, I stayed overnight with the bishop in November last year as I was in a delegation from Canada. It was a precious moment. Okay. I would just like an update. I'll keep reading some of these, but the Archbishop is having some computer trouble at this time, and so we're going to get him a phone number so he can call in. So please bear with us. Eric Mansfield writes, a group from Seattle led by Carrie and Tim Dearborn had the opportunity to meet and hear from Abuna Chacour in the fall of 2019. He communicated the love, passion, and grace of God, along with a bit of humor and fire. Jim and Judy Bailey, they write, I led a study group from Concordia College in Moorhead, Minnesota, in Wartburg Theological Seminary in Iowa, and often met with Elias Chacour in Ibillin. This was often a highlight for the students. Father Chacour was the commencement speaker in 2003 at Wartburg Seminary and inspired many. At least one new son of a seminarian was named Elias. This is really beautiful. Lastly, Archbishop Chacour came to be a keynote speaker at a national conference of schools of theology in Halifax in 2010. I was so impressed when I heard him speak. I went to all 5 times he spoke. I look forward to hearing from him again. Thank you, Linda, for posting that. Does anyone have any other stories? At the same time, I would like to, if you have been participating in Kumi over the last several weeks, I would appreciate any sort of comments that you have about how your advocacy actions have been going, if you felt like you had any success, or if you had any funny moments doing advocacy actions of the last several weeks. I think this would be a good opportunity to share with all the people on the call. And so we can all learn from each other and hear how fun sometimes these advocacy actions can be. Maureen Tobin writes, our first trip to the Holy Land was in 1994, when we served as volunteers at Mar Elias schools for a month. Abuna Chacour was still then headmaster and a daily inspiration to us and to all present. We have subsequently led many Sabeel and other international groups to visit the schools and have appreciated Archbishop Chacour's presentation at Sabeel conferences. Yeah, and he was actually one of the, I should say, founding members of Sabeel. He was very instrumental in the start of it. So his influence goes beyond just the schools. It goes to even Sabeel's ministry over the last several years. Benneth writes, we read Blood Brothers in a book group at my church, Spirit of Grace in Beaverton, Oregon. His niece, Gada, who lives near Portland, attended. Okay. I will now let Naim Atik speak. So he'll give me a little break and he can introduce our speaker or talk more about these things. Thank you, Naim.
Assis, you're on mute.
Okay, now, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Assis.
Yes, okay, thank you. Okay, I just want to say, nice to see some of our friends here. It's great, and I thought while we are waiting for Abuna Chacour, maybe I can add a few words that has to do with my own experience with Abuna Chacour. This goes back to 1966. I was assigned a very small Anglican parish in Galilee, very close to Nazareth, called Shafa Amr. And at that time, I did not know Chacour, but I discovered that in the village of Ibillin, where Chacour is, I had 2 families, Anglican families, who lived there, and nobody was looking after them. So I went to visit them and got to know them. And every one of these families had a number of children. And so I decided that I need to find a place so that I can have a Sunday school for these about 10 children that were Anglicans, but had no church place there. And so I went to visit the priest there, and it was Chacour. So I introduced myself, I got to know him, and I told him the story about the 2 families, that I have pastoral responsibility for them, and whether he would be kind enough to allow me to give me a small place in the church, which was a much bigger church in Ibillin, Greek Catholic, Melkite, so that I can hold the Sunday school. And so we chatted for a bit, and then he said to me, he said, I will allow you to use the church and the buildings of the church with one condition. He said, if you will take responsibility of taking the Melkite children and give them also a Sunday school. So instead of having 10 children, you will have all the children that I can try to facilitate this for you. And so it happened. I started going every Sunday with a couple of teachers from Shafa Amr. I used to take my diatonic accordion and I started teaching the children songs and hymns. And then the teachers, we would split the children, and the teachers from Shafa Amr would do the study or the lessons there. And instead of having children, I used to have about 60 kids. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. So I did this for 4 years during my time in Shafa Amr, and that started my friendship with Chacour, and it has been going on ever since. And so when so we became very good friends, and we became also active when Archbishop Joseph Raya came into the city, came into Israel, and became the Bishop of Galilee, where Chacour was also very active with Bishop Raya. And then when Sabil came into being years later, I asked Chacour to be one of the founders, co-founders of the Sabil. I had already started to articulate the Palestinian theology of liberation, as many of you know. But then Sabil came into being in the early 1990s, and Chacour was one of the co-founders of Sabil. So you can see the friendship that we were able to really nourish together, and the ministry that we have had. And I always admired him. I admired his courage, his ministry, and he when he wrote his first book, Blood Brothers, in 1984, it was the beginning. It was, I believe, the beginning. And my book came several years later, Justice and Only Justice. So our ministries continued to go together. And I thank God for Abuna Chacour's ministry and for the blessings that he has brought to many families and many people over the years. So maybe I'll stop here. Hopefully, is he now on? Is he there? Do you know?
I don't think he's on yet. So I'm going to read 2 more comments. Thank you very much, Assis. I will appreciate the break. Esther Kern wrote, I have an autographed book of Blood Brothers in which Elias Chacour wrote, God does not kill. I met him at a presentation in Ontario many years ago, and his book has inspired me to return to the West Bank 11 times to work with Christian peacemaker teams. Thank you, Esther. That's wonderful. Bennett writes, hello to Omar, who spoke from the pulpit of our church in 2016. Your presentation was very powerful. I think it's ironic that I've actually heard Elias Chacour speak twice in the United States, and I lived in Palestine for 2 years, and I never met him in Palestine. It's a testament to his passion for traveling and teaching others about what is happening in Palestine, and sharing his ministry over the last several years. What I think we should do, if nobody has any cool advocacy action ideas or cool advocacy stories or testaments that they've done, I think I will go ahead and close in prayer. I apologize for the technical difficulties. I think we've all experienced them over the last several months with this new way of working. So thank you all for your time, and let me just close in prayer. So keep Palestine in your mind and in the ministry of Mar Elias. Lord, we pray about the divisive use of taxes to fund Israeli Jewish schools more favorably than schools for Palestinian students. We pray that such discrimination will be challenged and will cease. We thank you for schools like the Mar Elias School in Galilee, where Palestinian children from different faith backgrounds are respected and can learn together and grow in mutual respect. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. Amen. Fantastic. Reverend Naeem, do you have any other comments you'd like to make, or Omar, before we close?
I just, if you know, do we know?
Hi, SCS.
Hi.
I have the Bishop Elias Chacour with me over the phone. I'm sorry it did not work out, but he would like to say hi. تفضل سيدنا.
الو أسيس مرحبا.
مرحبتين.
كيف حالكم؟
الحمد لله.
الحمد لله.
مشتاقين.
الله معكم.
الله يحفظك.
سيدنا معك انت يعني اكثر من 100 شخص على الزوم. اذا بتحب تحكي كلمتين بالانجليزي. Can you hear us? Could you not? Yeah.
I hear you very well. What do you want me to say now?
I greetings maybe سيدنا.
To whom am I speaking?
To the whole world. There's people from all around the world. There's people from America, and they all love you. And actually, many people have been sharing wonderful stories about you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Father Chacour from Galilee. I wish to share with you so much, but I am not well versed in the computer. I greet you, and I assure you of my prayers and my affection. May God give you the power to persevere in peacemaking and in justice implementing. Thank you.
Thank you, Sayyidina. And Sayyidina, we will try on tomorrow, or maybe it is when there is somebody to help you with the technology. We will record another session and we will send you the video that has to do a session with the Bishop Elias Chacour.
Tomorrow from 8:30 to 1, I'm in the office.
And we will call you and we will promise to send you a video of our beloved Bishop Elias Chacour, who is also a co-founder of Sabil. We have Reverend Naeem, who has also been sharing stories about you, how he met you. Also, so many people have met you, Bishop Elias, and so many people love you, including all of us here at Sabil.
I love many people. I love everyone as well.
Assis, would you like to say something to the Bishop?
Yeah, well, we've missed you, And hopefully your health is good. And I enjoyed last time I saw you. We worshiped together in the Melkite Church in Ibillin. We had a group from Sabil with us, if you remember, and it was a wonderful service in the village there. And I have not seen you now for at least 2 or 3 years. So I hope when this when this COVID curse, I guess, leaves us, maybe we will have a chance to see you again in good health. But thank you for your ministry. We already hear Seth, who was chairing this session. He already talked about the Mar Elias ministry and the college. So we've been informed about that, but we were hoping to hear you personally. But Omar looks like we'll arrange that sometime soon.
Yes, we will use, I mean, the challenge of, we're gonna use also, there's benefits also for technology, so we will use them. It is unfortunate. We missed you, Bishop.
Tomorrow morning, my secretary will be here and she can manage the technology.
Inshallah, inshallah, Bishop.
الله يكون معك.
بسيطة سيدنا، بسيطة.
الله يكون معك. يعطيك الصحة.
يعطيك الصحة سيدنا. مع السلامة.
السلامة. I think, Omar, maybe because we already are gathered in the Zoom, whether some people want to give comments or ask questions or something for a few more minutes. Is that something you want, or do you want to end it here?
Maybe we leave it with some good news.
Okay.
I mean, it is just to make everybody feel much better. Actually, the last month, it was also bad from home demolitions and from land confiscation and so on. But at least the levels of harassment at Ben Gurion Airport is a record down low, so that's good. Since it is closed, I mean, so it's the same thing.
That's good.
And unemployment levels in Palestine are also, I mean, they're similar to many countries in the developed world. So it is, we're managing all of these challenges. And I mean, it's good news, something that is serious good news. We are actually in the last stages of finalizing an ecumenical worship that will be shown visual. It's in a video, and yes, and Reverend Naim Ati is doing the sermon, but with all of the churches in Jerusalem taking part. So we hope that it will be really revolutionary, and so many people have been taking part. So I hope you will join us, and we will be announcing it in the near future. So that's it, sis. So I think that's it. We promised to try our best for tomorrow to send you a video link with Bishop Elias Chacour addressing you and giving his lecture. And maybe we will host him a different time. Okay, so nobody's making any noise. Nobody is demonstrating or doing anything. So it's so should we, Seth, end the meeting? Yeah, Seth is on mute. Mark is not letting him speak.
I've spoken too much already. Khalas. No, thank you all for joining. I would just like to reiterate the 3 advocacy actions. Please take a moment to take a photo of your school library, mark out 71% of it, and post it up so people can learn about it that way. Send a book or a cover of a book to the Ministry of Education, and be sure to post everything on social media with the right hashtags. Thank you all for your time, and yep.
Sorry, Seth, Bishop Chacour has just joined us.
Oh,
Oh, except he doesn't have audio.
Yeah, so.
We have video, but no audio.
Oh, where is he? Could you pin him to the screen?
If I can find him, yes.
Oh, okay. Let me call him.
Oh, he's got audio now. Hang on.
Oh, yes.
He needs to click on unmute, though.
Yeah, let me call him on the
There we
mobile.
go. He should.
Hello.
he's got it.
سيدنا.
ايوه ماشي الحال
طلع
ظبط.
على الكاميرا.
سامعينك سيدنا. We hear you.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, finally. It is never give up, and that's a lesson today. Never give up.
Okay, I did not give up. It's fine. Can we do anything now or it's too late?
I think, yeah, let's do it, Bishop. There's many people have left, but we still have 82 people online.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good. Bishop, can you please just turn to the camera? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit, make it. Okay, perfect. Perfect, Bishop.
Okay.
You can start, Bishop.
To whom I'm talking, sorry. To whom I'm talking.
You are speaking to a bunch of people around the world, Sabeel supporters who are involved with an advocacy initiative called Kumi Now. So it's about 82 people from around the world.
That's good. Okay, greetings to all of you. I'm sorry for not having been very versed in technology. I greet you and I really admire your perseverance in pursuing justice in order to have peace, because it's impossible to have any kind of peace without implementing justice for all, for the poor, for the marginalized, for the refugees, for the deportees, justice for all human beings. And this virus, COVID-19, has really taught us a lesson that maybe we have forgotten, that we are all alike. We are all alike. Despite the differences between us, we are all born babies on the image and with the likeness of God. And our responsibility is to remind people of this image of God which is in us, in ourselves. And I really am amazed when I see people forgetting that the other is born baby with the same dignity, with the same right, with the same hope, with the same ambition. I'm amazed and shocked when I see people trying to do everything to subdue another people, another nation. And I'm amazed to see that a nation who suffered atrocious atrocities are now subduing another nation to experience the same suffering, the same marginalization, and even the same negation of their humanity. We want peace, we want justice, we want to implement that and to awaken the dignity of every human being, of our own people, the Palestinians, and of the Jews. I hope they will discover that their dignity cannot be true unless they can see it in our own Palestinian dignity. And we can live together. We can share together, provided we respect each other's dignity, each other's identity, being born on the image and with the likeness of God. I greet you all, and I pray, I hope, soon we'll come back to the past when we were able to welcome you in our school, in our midst, in our society. We love to see you. We wait to see you. We want to see you. May God bless all of you and keep you in good health, protected from any danger. May God bless you and keep you strong to keep the faith alive. Thank you. Omar? عمر
ايوه سيدنا.
ماشي الحال؟
ماشي الحال. القسيس نعيم حابب يحكي معك سيدنا.
قسيس نعيم كيفك حبيبي؟
أنا كثير مشتاق لك.
وانا مشتاق لك يا اخي.
يا شو اخبارك؟
اخبار منيح، عايشين عمالنا بهالبيت.
يعطيك العافيه.
عندنا مشاريع كثير هسه بس نشكر الله.
كيف الجامعه ماشيه؟
الجامعه ما انتقلت للناصره وسكروها بالناصره.
لا
احنا عندنا الكوليدج هسه هون.
بس الكوليدج ها؟
ايوه.
بس
يعني ما good in English قسيس.
Yeah, let's switch to English. Tell us please something about the school. I did not realize that only the primary and secondary school moved, or the college.
It's a complex of institutions. We have altogether 3,500 students. And you know that the school was not opened for Christians, for Jews, or for Muslims. The school was opened for all those born babies, Christian, Muslim, or Jews alike.
That's right.
And we are happy to have almost 60% of our students are Muslim, very beloved Muslims. We love them, we respect them, and we share everything with them. We have a hope that my initial dream be fulfilled when I can invite few children from each refugee camp in Gaza and the West Bank to join the school with a full scholarship. We are open for that, but the politics make it absolutely impossible. We'll keep the door open for them.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. But where did the children go? I mean, you said they moved to Nazareth. Did they take them to Nazareth?
The university was transferred to Nazareth, and it was ultimately closed, I think.
Really?
Because of a decision of the Israeli university. They gave us the accreditation when they were in Ibillin with a notice and down saying this institution will never enjoy any subsidy from the state of Israel. It's like letting you have a baby, but he is not allowed to breathe.
Wow.
That's it.
Is this new? When did this happen?
Oh, several years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah. My goodness.
You know,
I thought you got the accreditation.
We got the accreditation from the Higher Educational Council, and when Omar was the Prime Minister, the last session he had to discuss whether to recognize this institution as a university or not. They recognized it, but they put a providing that this institution will never enjoy any subsidy from the Israeli government, while every student in the universities enjoy a large amount of subsidy. From that, we are not allowed. That means we'll have no air to breathe.
Wow. And one cannot go to the Supreme Court for this?
No, that is useless.
I'm really surprised. I did not know this.
Well, that is the situation, yeah.
Allah Najina.
Tell me, when are you coming to this country?
As soon as I don't have to be
on quarantined
for 14 days. I miss going back home, and I miss seeing all of you and all the friends, and my two sisters are there.
Yeah,
So I'd love to come.
I think next time you come Assis, you remember that you have a home in Ibillin, and you would come to visit.
Thank you. Well, I just told our friends who were on Zoom how we met the first time when I came to ask you to allow me to have a place to have a Sunday school for the for the children. And you told me on condition that I will also have the children of your church. You remember that?
Absolutely.
It goes back to 1966.
And you were marvelous in doing that.
Well, you were very kind.
That's how I got connected to the Anglican families in Ibillin.
Yes.
You remember Nawar?
Yes, absolutely.
She is she is the chairperson of the Mar Elias education institutions.
Wow, wonderful.
She has a big responsibility.
How are her brothers?
They are all fine. Her father died, you know that.
Yes, the father, I remember.
Her mother is 95 years old.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. I just love them. They are so wonderful.
They are very lovable.
And then they're all educated, very well educated.
They are very educated. You know that Anis got specialization in America for heart operation.
Wow.
And he came back. We are so happy to have him back.
He's a heart surgeon?
Yeah.
Wow, amazing.
There are him and another one in Israel. Only two.
Wow, amazing. Please give them my love and my respect. I knew, obviously, I knew his grandfather, but wow.
You know that their children are all educated. They are doctors, they are lawyers, they are accountants. They are great people.
It's an amazing family. Amazing.
Absolutely.
Family.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's great.
And you have been instrumental in promoting their ambition to learn.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah. Nashkur Allah.
Aywa.
Wow, it's amazing. Yeah. Well, I'd just love to see you again. I hope in good health. Yeah.
I hope so.
And tomorrow we will record the session as it is supposed to be with the bishop. So we will call you in the morning, Bishop.
Okay.
And inshallah everything will be okay.
Very good.
Okay. So we're thankful for the Lord. I mean, it's a good lesson, Bishop. You have showed us never to give up, to continue.
No.
I mean, trying. And eventually things work out if we try hard. So thank you very much for teaching us another lesson.
Okay, Omar. Allah يخليك.
الله يكون معك. الله يكون معك. يعطيك الصحة.
الله يحفظك حبيبي. مع السلامة.
Thank you.
Bye bye. So, God bless you.
Bye bye.
God bless you, Bishop. And with these beautiful words from our co-founders of Sabil, Bishop Elias Chacour and Reverend Naeem Ati, we would like to thank you and apologize again for the for things that things didn't work as smoothly as possible. So thank you and take care and look forward for the email tomorrow.
Omar,
thank you so much.
I need to see you here.
Yes.
Please come.
I will, Sayyidina.
You can stay with us as long as you want.
No, I want to stay in Jerusalem, but...
Okay. But Christ was not from Jerusalem. He was from Galilee.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay. Bless you.
That's right.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.